What's up, lore masters? As you know, I've moved on to looking at other ships when it comes to this entire series. This will include both Star Trek and other universes. Today we'll be breaking down the ships of Vulcan. As you know from Star Trek Enterprise dialogue, the Vulcans didn't really like to explore, which is why 80% of these ships are going to be survey ships. Let's just get into it. The Deval type ship served during the 20th and 21st centuries. These ships are recognizable by their 3-engine tripod, elongated primary hull, and cone-shaped nose. The ship is warp capable and able to land on planets. Its model would also be used for fighters due to cheap CBS executives. The class would be so successful as a survey ship, they would use a similar frame for their fighters. Wait, what? The Deval-type vessel is a Vulcan ship that is one of the few vessels not designated as a survey ship by Vulcan High Command. Classified as a combat cruiser, the Deval-type was the vessel the Vulcans showed up in when they were looking for a fight. The ship sported particle beam weapons, photonic weapons, and a deflector shield. This vessel type is notably known for being at the Battle of Andoria, as well as a part of the fleet that was assisting the United Earth in identifying a rogue Romulan marauder ship. We don't know much of the Deval-type ship's bridge, but there was at least one panel that a crew member would be required to stand at. This panel additionally appeared to face the view screen from what scenes I saw in the episode. There would also be several triangular-shaped consoles immediately behind this workstation. The bridge would also have the telltale signs of Vulcans, meaning it was colored both green and brown. The sickbay of this vessel would have one biobed. One, for a crew of 147. Along with chairs that would additionally have restraints. No, that's not me making a joke. Vulcan ships actually did have one biobed and then ways to strap down people in sickbay. Because logic, I guess. There would additionally be an auxiliary control room connected to engineering. From here you could control most ship functions. It had a console in the middle, directly below a hatch, on the off chance zombie Vulcans would try to kill you and you'd need to get away quickly. Additionally, there would be consoles that lined the walls of the room. The ship also had a shuttle bay that spanned from the bottom of the vessel to the top in front of the ring section. Apparently the ship would have at least 2 ships for this massive shuttle bay. But 2 shuttles was all I could confirm, so that's what we're going to go with. The Deval-type hull has a flattened shape and warp nacelles that were actually comprised of a circular ring in the middle. The circular nacelles could be folded down, and many sources state that this was done due to launching auxiliary craft as well as when the warp drive was not in use. These ships were as powerful as Andorian battleships and were significantly stronger than anything the United Earth could field at the time. The ship was capable of both warp drive as well as impulse speeds. The Deval-type class ship would also have a support class ship that would dock in the engine hoop. The ship looks similar to that of its command vessel. It has an elongated primary hull with a cone nose and similar circular structure. It's unclear if the vessel has warp capability, but from what I could see, it doesn't appear to have any nacelles. The Memora is a class of ship mentioned that existed around 2151. The Minos type is a small cargo ship. The ship comprises one deck along with the elongated hull. It has both a cockpit and a cargo hold. The shuttle type ship is commonly seen with larger Vulcan vessels. The shuttle existed around 2151 and has a similar design to that of capital ships in that era. The shuttle has the same elongated hull with cone nose. It also has a similar ring that allows it warp capability. The next vessel can be considered somewhat contentious. It is not completely clear if the Charan-type vessel is a modified Surak-class vessel or one that is distinct to its own self. The ship has a similar design but is distinguishable in changing of its midsection as well as the changes to the window size. It is possible that the class is a quote-unquote minor refit, but I have my doubts. Like the Surak, or Surak in the Latin, the ship had a long, cylindrical primary hull with the Vulcan circular ring-shaped warp drive. The Surak, or Surak, depending on which resource I'm looking at, was a ship utilized during the 22nd century. It came in multiple variants, and its warp capability could range from warp 6.5 for science refits to 7 for combat refits. The combat refit included particle beam weapons as well as photonic weapons. And, of course, deflector shields. The ship would additionally have tractor beam technology, which was new for the time among the races of the Alpha Quadrant. Additionally, these ships could vary in color from brown to red, because science, I suppose. Vulcans would also have things classified as survey ships with no specific class or type, different from almost every other ship that is a survey ship in that it doesn't have a wait for it, class or type that we know of. These ships were warp capable and could accommodate at least 4 people. They were utilized by the Vulcan High Command as well as the Vulcan Science Directorate and Space Council. Beyond that, not much more is known. The Teplanohoth type ship seems to break the mold of most Vulcan designs. Unlike many Vulcan ships that have elongated primary hulls with cone noses and rounded engines, the Teplanohoth looks vaguely like a helicopter with a rounded primary hull and arms that extend out to the engines. The ship would also be able to land and take off vertically. It would also be warp capable as well as presumably having impulse power. An interesting note here is to point out that the ship is never given a name in canon. It has no type, no name, we don't really know what to call it actually. While the name utilized is Teplanohoth type, it's not shown in Alpha canon at any point. Interestingly, again, even though Memory Alpha uses it, Teplanohoth comes from non-canon resources. The Voklos type ship, also known as the Sith Infiltrator class to the Republic. Wait, what? The Voklos type ship is a civilian vessel utilized during the mid-22nd century. The ship was capable of warp along with visual communication. And I believe it was one of the only ships that were Vulcan to have gelato machines. We don't know much more about this type, unfortunately. Apparently, even though at least 1,000 years would pass and we would see all kinds of designs from the Galaxy class to the Intrepid to the Acura to the Steamrunner to the Sovereign, in 3125 Vulcan would create a future cruiser based on the same design they did in the 22nd century. Cause why the fuck not? And as everyone knows in the real world, we make ships based on whatever we used 1,000 years ago. Canoes, I'd guess. We don't know much about the ship except that it would have 3 intersecting engine rings and an elongated primary hull with cone nose. It was designated as a retrofitted dorsal carrier design XRT-55D. So, cheers. Ultimately, I find the Vulcan ships to be intriguing. While dialogue in Star Trek Enterprise indicates that Vulcans did not like to travel or explore, their actions in Enterprise, TNG, and DS9 would be consistent with ships we see here, which is to say, they were explorers. But that's honestly just my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments below. And as always guys, ultimately, all our lives are just stories. Make yours a good one.